She was sleeping in 8A when the captain asked if any combat pilots were on board 31,000 feet above the Atlantic, somewhere between 2 time zones and 2 lives. A woman named Grace Whitfield was fast asleep in seat 8A, her head resting against a small travel pillow, completely unaware that in less than an hour, she would be the only thing standing between 218 people and a catastrophe. Nobody on that plane knew who she really was. To the flight attendants, she was just another tired passenger. To the man in 8C beside her, she was a quiet woman who had barely said a word since boarding, but hidden beneath that gray sweater and closed eyes was a story the world had almost forgotten. And in the next 60 minutes, the sky itself would force her to remember it. If you believe in second chances, in ordinary people carrying extraordinary courage, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Share this video with someone who needs a little hope today. And subscribe to Kindness Corner, because stories like this one are exactly why this channel exists. Grace had not flown in almost 6 years. Not because she couldn't, but because she didn't want to remember what flying used to mean to her. 10 years earlier, she had been Major Grace Whitfield, one of the few women to fly fighter jets in combat missions overseas. A call sign whispered with respect among pilots who had seen her thread impossible situations through fire and static, but war does not let go easily. She had lost her closest friend in a mission, gone wrong, watched him go down while she circled helplessly above, unable to do anything but listen to silence on the radio. When she came home, she folded her uniform, packed away her medals, and told herself she was done with the sky forever. She became a school teacher in a small town, teaching literature to teenagers who had no idea their soft-spoken teacher had once broken the sound barrier. She rebuilt a quiet life, brick by brick, convincing herself that ordinary was safer than extraordinary. This trip was supposed to be ordinary too. She was flying to see her aging father, a man she hadn't visited in over a year, carrying guilt heavier than her suitcase. She had boarded early, taken her window seat, and let exhaustion pull her into sleep before the plane had even left the runway. She dreamed, as she often did, of cockpits and clouds, of her friend's voice crackling one last time over the radio. She did not know that fate had already begun writing a new chapter for her. Somewhere in the cockpit, just a few rows ahead, at cruising altitude, First Officer Daniel Reyes had been flying for 11 years without a single serious incident. But 11 years of safety can end in 11 seconds. A sudden, violent shudder ran through the aircraft as warning lights flooded the instrument panel. The autopilot disengaged with a sharp mechanical alarm, and the captain, a seasoned man named Robert Hale, felt his stomach drop as he realized the controls were fighting him, sluggish and unresponsive, as if the plane itself had turned against them. Within moments, it became clear that a critical hydraulic failure had crippled part of the aircraft's control system. The kind of failure pilots train for but pray they never face. Captain Hale's hands were steady, but his mind raced. He needed absolute precision, calm judgment under extreme pressure, the kind of instinct that came from thousands of hours in combat, not commercial skies. And then, almost as a desperate long shot, he asked his co-pilot to make an announcement most passengers would never expect to hear on a routine flight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We are currently experiencing a technical issue and require immediate assistance. If there is anyone on board with fighter jet or combat flying experience, please identify yourself to a flight attendant immediately. This is not a drill. Panic rippled through the cabin like a wave, gasps and frightened whispers spreading from row to row. Passengers clutching armrests and each other. Children beginning to cry as parents tried desperately to stay calm for their sake. In seat 8A, Grace's eyes snapped open. For a moment she thought she was still dreaming, that the announcement was simply an echo of the nightmare she carried. But when she saw the fear on the faces around her, when she felt the plane tremble again beneath her feet, she understood this was real. Every instinct she had buried for 6 years surged back to the surface at once. Her hands began to shake, not from fear of the plane, but from the sudden collision between the life she had built and the life she had tried to leave behind. The man beside her noticed her frozen expression and gently asked if she was all right. In a voice barely above a whisper, Grace said the words she had not spoken aloud in years. I used to fly fighter jets. Before she could stop herself, before doubt could pull her back into hiding, She unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up, her legs trembling as she walked down the narrow aisle, past terrified passengers, toward the cockpit door, toward a version of herself she thought she had left in the past. Inside the cockpit, Captain Hale turned to see a woman he had never met, dressed in an ordinary gray sweater, introducing herself simply as a former Air Force pilot. There was no time for disbelief. He explained the situation rapidly: the failing hydraulics, the unresponsive controls, the diminishing options. Grace listened, and something inside her shifted, the old sharpness returning like muscle memory long dormant but never truly gone. She studied the instruments, recognized patterns from a lifetime ago, and began speaking with a calm, commanding clarity that surprised even herself. She guided Daniel through manual adjustments, helped Captain Hale redistribute control pressure, using techniques she had once used to nurse damaged aircraft back to base under enemy fire. Her voice did not waver. Every suggestion she gave came from scars she had earned the hardest way possible. And for the first time in years, those scars became her strength instead of her burden. Minutes felt like hours as the crew worked together, sweat lining their brows, the aircraft shuddering with every correction. Then, gradually, the plane began to stabilize. The nose leveled, the trembling eased. Somewhere over the ocean, a woman who had once believed her purpose was buried in the past helped bring 218 strangers safely back from the edge of disaster. When the plane finally landed, passengers erupted into tears and applause, many of them reaching out just to touch her hand, to thank the quiet woman from Ada who turned out to be the reason they were still breathing. Grace stepped off that plane changed forever. Not because she had proven anything to the world, but because she had finally forgiven herself, understanding that surviving that mission years ago was never a failure, but a reason to keep living, to keep being ready when someone needed her most. She called her father that night, her voice thick with emotion, and told him she was coming home. Truly coming home, not just to visit, but to finally let go of the guilt she had carried for far too long. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that our past pain can become someone else's rescue. Your support means everything to this channel, and helps these stories reach more people who need them. Before you go, I have one small request. Please type the words second chances in the comments below if you believe everyone deserves one, no matter how long they have been hiding from their own strength. Grace never expected an ordinary flight to hand her back the life she thought she had lost. But sometimes the sky calls us home in ways we never see coming. And sometimes, healing begins the moment we finally answer.